as you mentioned, 15 years since you started Soulfly, actually a little over. And at the time, you were dealing with the tragic loss of Dana, your stepson. On this album, you and your three sons, Igor, Richie, and Zion, address that loss on Revengeance, which is the one track you played live. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Revengeance song was created, started with me and Zion jamming at home, and we did the first structure of the song, and then we took it to the studio, and Igor added some new riffs, 2 new riffs on it, and everybody sang on it. They all have their own lyrics. And it was great, and the lyrics about their brother that was murdered in '96, so it's a very hardcore topic, kind of really like therapy actually to talk about stuff like that. And I wrote some of my words, and we started singing, and we did the chorus together, everybody, all of us in the same booth singing together, and it felt really great singing about for Dana and making another song for Dana, and Revenge really turned out great, and it was really stoked with the way it turned out. That when I heard it, I wanted to put it on the record and make to be the closing of the record, be the last song on the album. And I really like that, and I think it's a great way to close the Enslaved record. I think Revenge is a perfect song to ending the record, and it feels great now the album closes with that song. And we play live, the crowd really like it, and I hope we can continue playing that live when we go on tour.
Absolutely. I mean, it's got to be somewhat magical to play this song with all 3 of your sons, you know, about losing another one of your sons, if you will.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's great having them in a state. They're young and full of energy. They're like stage diving in Brazil, losing their shoes and coming back from the crowd without shoes, and it was like crazy like young kids do, and it was actually a lot of fun to have them do that song with me on the stage.
Obviously 15 years has just flown by, but I hope you've at least found some peace now with that aspect of your life, because I know it's a very, very deep tragedy for you. Yeah,
we're coping with it every day. I think it gets better through the years. It doesn't heal entirely, but it gets a little easier as the years go by. And we have the memorial show for Dana every year in Phoenix that we do. It's a very special date, and every year is a great show. Last year we had it in December 31st, which was an unusual date. Normally the shows are in August. We couldn't get one together in time, so we ended up doing on December 31st, which was right before New Year's. And it was a great show. It was packed, and all the fans came and showed their support. So it was great. And we kept his memory alive through the shows, through the songs, through the music, which is something that he liked so much,
Right. Now, my personal favorite on the new album is sort of a bit different than all the others, and I'll probably butcher the name, but Plata o Plato, or Plata o Plato? Plata o Plato, there we go. You and Tony sing it in Portuguese and Spanish. I can't even say it in English.
Yeah.
Tell us about that track.
It's about Pablo Escobar, the big drug dealer from Colombia. And it's the story of his life, pretty much, because in Colombia he's a really big, famous character. And some people refer him as a saint, some people refer him as the devil. They're both sides of the coin, and I found it to be very interesting character. And I read a book about it, and I lended my book to Tony, and so helped him get some ideas about the lyrics. And we both knew about Pablo Escobar, and we wanted to make this kind of song in Spanish and Portuguese. I was singing in Portuguese, my native language, and Tony was singing in Spanish like he does in Assassino, which is a project that he does with Dino from Fear Factory. Mm-hmm. And Tony's got this great death metal voice that he sings on Assassino, and I wanted him to sing like with the same voice on Plata o Plomo, and he did, and it's turned out great. And Mark put some amazing flamenco guitars on top of it, man. Was like the icing on the cake, because we already had the whole song done and the vocals were done, and then Mark showed up and then put this fucking crazy flamenco guitars on top of it, and it was just blew everybody away, and it was so killer because the song is about it's about a guy from Colombia. So when Mark put those flamenco guitars on top of it, made it more authentic and more awesome. And I think now it's definitely one of my favorite songs on the album. And it was really fun to work on that song and watch it come to life. And he has great great groove riff that starts the song with. And I really like the song a lot. I think it's one of my favorite tracks.
Yeah, it's just a certain magic to that, and it adds some diversity to the album. Now, you and I have talked a number of times, so when I got ready to do this interview, one of my writers was like, please let me do it. He had a couple of questions he wanted me to ask. So for our own Vitek Nabi, his questions are this. Soulfly have always toured a lot and experimented with places where most bands, and in some cases not any other bands at all internationally, have toured as an artist. Where do you find the motivation to tour into remote countries?
I think it's very exciting to bring the music to remote places and tour where other bands don't normally go. I found that to be very exciting, and it's really the magic of metal that break barriers and go to places like China and Indonesia and Japan, Australia, and South America and Israel and Turkey and all these crazy places. That to me is very exciting to go. Soulfly did a Siberian tour of 10 shows. It was just awesome. One of my favorite tours ever. All across inside Russia, going through the Siberian mountains and just seeing all that crazy stuff that normally you don't see it. You only see that shit on TV. To actually be there live and seeing the people and touching them and talking to them and experience the culture firsthand, it's a magic, man. It's pure magic. It's what I love about being in a band, is to get to travel to these places and play for the crowds in these remote parts of the world. And I intend to keep Soulfly doing that. It's one of our main things that we do, so we got to continue doing that.
Are there still some unconquered territories you're dying to hit?
There's a lot of stuff like Middle East, is like India and Singapore, Thailand, Emirates. There's a lot of places like that I hear that some bands have been going there. A friend of mine like Napalm Death are being to those places and say they were amazing, really cool. And I like to go play to those in those places. I like to experience that and bring Soulfly music to those areas of the world. To be really cool.
Absolutely. Oh, and speaking of Napalm Death, have you listened to the new album yet?
I heard one track on Liquid Metal. I really like it.
Cool. The other question from Vitek was, you've been a critic of religion. Sometimes you've been quoted as saying that you hate religion, but all of your albums for Soulfly have been dedicated to God. Can you tell us the reason behind this?
Well, I'm spiritual, and I believe in God, but it's not necessarily the same as religious God. That I don't believe you need to go to church every Sunday, and I don't believe you need to organize religion in your life. I don't think that's necessary. I think if you only believe in God and it works for you, it'd be good like it works for me. So I just show my appreciation of God because it kept me alive and kept me making music. So I dedicate the albums to Him, but it's not organized religion. That's what I was trying to say. It's not necessarily the church religion that people go to. I'm not really into that.
And I tell people all the time, it's like, I've got faith, I've got spirituality, but organized religion to me is probably more dangerous than not believing at all. So. Yeah,
because they'll try to force that on people, and that's wrong, because I think this stuff like God should be discovered by every person by itself in a very natural way. You either get it or you don't get it, but to force that on people, to make it into a mandatory thing is wrong, because that's not the way natural things are. So I'm against that,
Right. Well, there's a lot of hypocrisy in organized religion, too. So you're working on an autobiography. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's coming along good. We've done a lot of interviews written by an English guy called Joe MacGyver. He has done some great books like the Metallica book and Glenn Hughes and Cliff Burton and Randy Rhoads and Motorhead.
Right.
He's a great writer, and we are almost finished up all the interviews. The intro is going to be done by Dave Grohl.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he decided to invite him to do the intro. He was very honored and very pleased that I asked him to do it, and it was really cool. So he's going to do the intro of the book, and I'm going to have a lot of cool interviews inside the book and my whole story of my life. So a lot of cool things, a lot of strong points of my career, like the birth of Sepultura, the creation of Sepultura, how we got signed, and then my exit in Sepultura, starting in Soulfly, working with great musicians like Tom Araya and Sean Lennon and Chino and all these awesome guys I work with through the years, and explain how it was to work with all of them. And should be a very good book, man. Should be really cool. We're trying to get released by Christmas. Hopefully we get this thing out by Christmas. It would be great.
Absolutely, because in theory the world ends before Christmas.
Right, so we got to get it out before the end of the world.
Exactly. So besides puking on Eddie Vedder, is there a short story or something that you can give us a sneak peek of from the book?
There's one that Dino remembered from when I first met him from Fear Factory, and I don't remember this at all. And say we both on a bathroom somewhere in L.A. in a club, and there was a poser guy peeing between me and Dino, and I look at the guy and I just turn away towards him and start peeing on his pants. And I pee on this poser guy's pants, and the guy left, and I told Dino, fuck this poser guy, you know. and Dino said that was the first time he's ever met me. It was in that bathroom, and he was like, "This is a crazy motherfucker." I don't really remember, but it's a Dino story about me that he told me about it, and it's going to be on the book as well.
Well, we'll look forward to reading that for sure, because you've definitely led an incredible life, and it just gets greater and crazier all the time. So last question then before we get out of here. Tell us about your side project with Greg Puciato of Dillinger Escape Plan.
Yeah, it's coming along slowly, but it's still going. We got 4 songs done. I went to LA to jam with Greg, and we got the drummer of Mars Volta involved, Dave. It's a really great drummer, and it's kick-ass, and we got 4 songs done. They turned out really, really awesome, really exciting. And right now we're trying to finish the writing of it. I think we're going to meet up a couple more times in LA and write some more, and until we enter the studio. But the album is going to be some kind of Nailbomb Part 2. That's the way I envision. It's going to be done in the same kind of way of Nailbomb, very punk rock, very without much thinking of it. It's really about the presence and the feeling, kind of punk rock spirit, you know. So it's going to be spur of the minute kind of things more than really thought process kind of stuff. So it's going to be really like spur of the moment kind of things going on the record. But it's not going to come out till next year, unfortunately, because of our schedules.
Right.
I got Soulfly all year, touring all over the world, and Greg's got Dillinger, and we got to find a time between those to make this record. But we'll figure out, and it should come out next year. But it's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be really cool. It's the closest thing I'm gonna be doing that compares to Nailbomb, which a lot of people ask me if I'm gonna do another Nailbomb record, and this should be the closest thing to Nailbomb that people are gonna get. So it should be pretty fun.
Nice. And any other players that you know are going to be on in terms of guitar, bass, stuff like that? And
we're trying to get Nate from Converge to play bass, and the other guys we don't know yet who they're going to be. We're still trying to figure out who they're going to be, but probably some cool names going to be around this record for sure.
Gotcha. And speaking of name, have you slapped a moniker on it yet?
Not yet, no. We're actually accepting suggestions.
All right. Max Cavalera, we appreciate it. Before we get out of here, is there anything else that we should know about? Anything else going on in the world of Cavalera?
No, I think we covered, man. We did pretty good.
Excellent.
All right, brother. Nice talking to you, man.